Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you're joining us. Thank you for joining us today for the Future of Air Mobility Accelerator Programme launch webinar. It's a pleasure to have you today, and the team here at Connected Places Catapult is really looking forward to sharing more information on what's a really exciting programme that we're launching. A quick look at the agenda for today. So after myself, I'll hand over to Hannah Chu, our Director of Air Mobility, to give a few welcome comments. We then have some market research and insights to share with you from our market economist. I'll then give you some more information on the journey so far for the programme, just to give you a bit more context around how we got here today. We then have some welcome comments from the Future Flight Challenge team, before handing over to the Programme Manager and Director for more information on the Accelerator Programme structure that we have in place. We then have some comments from Cranfield University, one of our partners on the programme, before finishing up with some application support and selection criteria information. We then have some time at the end dedicated to Q&A from the attendees of the webinar. So it's a pleasure to first say hello to Hannah today and hand over to her to give you some welcoming comments. Over to you, Hannah.
Thank you very much, Ben. So good morning, everyone. It's great to be here today to announce the launch of the Future of Air Mobility Accelerator Programme in partnership with the Future Flight Challenge at UKRI. Connected Places Catapult is excited to be playing a leading role in this initiative, but together with our consortium of partners, we'll be helping to shape the future of the aviation sector. The Air Mobility Directorate has two major areas of focus: enabling new modes of air transport and aviation sustainability. So how do we integrate new things, and how do we do what we're already doing better? The Accelerator challenges are aligned to both of these. We recognise that in order to innovate successfully in an emerging market, you can't do this alone. And this initiative is a great opportunity to bring together the needed elements of the ecosystem in which to create a sustainable roadmap, bringing together new technologies and services to market. In recent years, Connected Places Catapult has led on a number of aviation initiatives, which have secured our place as a thought leader within the industry. From the thought leading market research we conducted, supporting on establishing new regulations with our authorities, to live trials and demonstrations, we're helping to establish the UK as a leader in this aviation sector. The slide here lists some of the key pieces of work that we've been involved in and that we've delivered on, and demonstrates the breadth of work that we've been involved in. We would naturally be happy to share more with you about what we've done here if you are interested. Everything's been published on the website. However, today we're looking forward and talking about the Accelerator, so I shan't take any more of your time talking about those. We're really looking forward to the next 6 months. We're very excited about seeing which SMEs are selected for the programme and supporting them to scale their technologies together with support from the consortium partners. So thank you very much for your time today and for joining us. And I hope that you get everything you need, and you know where we are if you need more information. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Hannah. Thanks very much. So the programme that we're going to share with you today has been underpinned by the excellent market research that our internal teams conducted. To give you some more information on that, I'll hand you over to Callum, our market economist. Over to you, Callum.
Great, thank you, Ben. So good morning, everyone. I'm Callum Gerard, the market economist here at the Connected Places Catapult. So this morning I'm going to provide some quick insights into the research we collected from myself and others within the Modelling Appraisal Directorate to support the Accelerator. So our objective was to provide an evidence base, an understanding of the aviation-specific opportunities and challenges within 3 outlined areas, which were data-driven aviation, smart airports, and unmanned aerial vehicles, which now changed to advanced air mobility. The outcome of which was to produce a detailed report aggregating the key insights from a fact base tested both internally and with external industry partners to guide potential challenge areas for the Accelerator. We built this fact base via a desktop-based assessment, holding internal and external workshops to test our findings before consolidating a final report along with our learnings from the project. Could we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. So, organising our insights, we're into 5 key sections. We looked first at the market size and growth estimates, building upon previous research conducted in the Catapult. The Pestle analysis considered public acceptance, political, legal, and environmental factors, along with macroeconomic trends, including impacts relating to COVID-19, net zero, digitalization, and automation. Finally, the influence of technology around artificial intelligence, cloud computing, 5G, and more. Able to move to the next slide, please. So how to visualize the outputs. After collecting the information within a Excel basis, we looked for something more visual for the impacts, ranging from a scale of very low to very high. And reading the charts, you have the 16 interventions organized across the top, grouped by the 3 key market areas we considered. And along down the row columns, you'll see the 3 middle section from the organizing our insights. The impacts which really stood out were particularly around 5G and digital twins, both of which were revised upwards after conversations with external industry partners. He expected that legal challenges surrounding either information ownership or potential liabilities between parties also saw legal factors placing a highly seen as highly impactful. Wealth polarization effects surrounding introducing potential eVTOL or air taxi services also saw quite high impacts towards the latter group. And a common trend across the conversations held both internally and externally with the impact of 5G and digital twins potentially as an operational platform for organizations. The findings of the research identified that UAV, as we considered initially, may be broadened to UAM, now seen as advanced air mobility. Safety and security interventions could also be included, or it may be extended to include biological or cybersecurity. There was a comment surrounding definition for some of the areas, particularly digital twins and systems integration. And considering the definition used, this may revise the impacts. Lastly, sustainability and net zero are also consistent themes. And whilst net zero was identified under the macroeconomic trends, they could be identified as a separate intervention to promote innovation surrounding sustainable fuels, alternative aircraft types, or methods in achieving the objectives. And lastly, I guess I will not take any more time this morning. Just thank you for sharing your morning with me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of today's webinar.
Thanks, Callum. This is just a snapshot of the market research that was conducted. There's a very extensive report attached to this that we're very happy to share with anyone who'd like access to it. So if you would like some access to it, feel free to reach out. We'll share our details on the last slide today. But just to reiterate, this really underpins the challenge areas that we scoped out for the program. It helps us to evaluate them against which technologies could we focus on as part of the program, and perhaps what other kind of technologies are more suitable to more longer term projects that are last or maybe in the future. So just to give you a quick background into CPC and more specifically the Accelerator Programme team, we've been delivering programs now for just over 3 years. So as of this year, we'll have delivered 14 cohorts across our programs from our Intelligent Mobility Accelerator, now in its 5th cohort with Wayra, Hyundai and Amy, Telefonica Renault 2, alongside our 3rd cohort of the HS2 Accelerator Programme that we just launched last month. So we're very focused on mobility and the built environment, as you can see across this chart here. In terms of the support that we offer from Connected Places Catapult in our programs, we like to break it down to these 3 key areas. So technical and market expertise, we offer extensive in-house support, and that's both on the partner side and the SME side. So we can help with the selection of SMEs all the way through to supporting SMEs on their trials as well. The second bucket here, looking at commercial investment support. So we look to support SMEs both on the commercial sense as well, whether that's looking on development of marketing and business development through to investment readiness and strategy or business modeling and road mapping. Then the third bucket here, we're really positioned as a neutral convening power within the UK. So we have access to market actors, policymakers, commercial partners, alongside access to funding opportunities in form of grants, for example, which are both supportive on the SME and partner side as well. A key focus for us is measuring our impact in the UK ecosystem. And that's both the impact on the SME from a commercial trial perspective or commercial pipeline perspective and investment, but also looking at how do we impact things like job creation within the market as well. So this is just a snapshot of our impact so far, which I'd say is probably quite higher than this. There's only so much we can track, but it's a testament to what we're doing. But in regards to the Future of Air Mobility Accelerator, it really started last year when CPC conducted a market sizing report. It was about summertime 2020. Obviously, COVID and the industry's had a major impact in the last 24 months. So we had to reevaluate that. But starting in January this year, we really started to scope out what the program could look like. We looked at what initiatives in the market already existed, where could we sit that would complement the market, or even more than that, complement other initiatives in the market. One thing that we are paramount on is not being competitive. So we really identified where we could sit within the marketplace. In April, we then started on the reevaluating the market research that Callum just shared with you, and that finished in May. Once we had the challenge areas set, we then went out to market to look for a delivery partner, and then we subsequently selected them in mid-July, and that they are PlusX, who we'll be introducing you to shortly. Before then moving into the challenge scoping section of the timeline here, where we sat down with industry, academia and government, together with our strategic partner Future Flight Challenge, to really scope out the challenge statements for this programme. And this is all underpinned by the consortium development, which we will share with you shortly as well, where we brought together all the needed elements of the ecosystem together to really scope this programme out to fit the market. And as many of you may have seen, we launched the open call last week on the 2nd of September, and applications will be closing on the 26th of September, which we'll share more details with you on that shortly as well. But next up, really, sorry, just closing my screen. A very important part of the programme is our partnership with the Future Flight Challenge UKRI. And here to give some welcome comments is Gary Cutts, the Challenge Director. So over to you, Gary.
Super, thank you, Ben. My appearance there was much more just in time than I'd planned it to be. So yeah, just a few minutes just to explain more the why for us of why we're interested in this, and then to kind of link through to Ben talking about some of the challenge statements themselves, which we're very supportive of. So as many of you will know on the call, Future Flight's been running for around 2 years. It's got another couple of years to run. And we've been looking to help to accelerate and develop the wide range of aviation systems required to allow 3 new classes of air vehicle to come into being in a meaningful way. That's drones from 1.5 kilo up to possibly 3-ton drones, advanced air mobility vehicles, electric aviation, slightly limited to us to sub-regional light aircraft, but 3 novel classes of air vehicle, very much as I said around the aviation system. It is a complex systems problem, and therefore we are supportive of working with anyone who's trying to tackle the thing at system level, which is very much where this program is. So what things are really important to us, and what some observations that we've made through the Future Flight Challenge. So as I said, we take a systems approach. We want people to work not just on the individual components, but we want people to work across our challenge. And that is people simulating, modeling, taking system architecture views of how do you create this entire system that allows these new classes of aviation to come. So bullet point for us 1 is very much system of system architecting, simulation, modeling, making sense of this future world. It is equally clear to us, because we're looking at introducing new classes of air vehicle that are intended at some point to fly at real volume in crowded airspace and in much more complex terrain. So these vehicles will be flying into cities, they'll be flying into rural areas and complex geographic terrain too, but they'll definitely be flying into cities and crowded airspace and building regions. Really clear to us with that volume that digital systems, communications protocols, the air traffic management, and that backbone of cyber secure single source of truth data, that is a really important enabler. It may be less so in the very early days, but as we come to scale, digital systems are a real key enabler for us. And lastly, in some of the points I wanted to make this morning, the aircraft we're talking about, they'll fly a wide range of missions. We've published these in our roadmap. It is everything from last mile deliveries, connecting difficult to connect places, islands and so on. Highlands Island of Scotland is one of our prime use cases. But eventually, the larger of these aircraft, we don't want them to fly separated from the traditional large aviation system. We don't want segregation. We want aircraft like advanced air mobility vehicles to go into mainline airports, interline with large aircraft and become part of that aviation system. So we're not looking to develop an otherworldly aviation system of new airports only, but how do we integrate with existing airports? And when Ben comes to talk about the challenge statements and themes, I think those three themes of system of systems view, how do we integrate with airports, and how do we develop digital systems, they're pretty core to what this challenge and this program is all around. So for us, it makes complete sense to partner and help to develop this program. There are a couple of other aspects I wanted to cover, though, which are in some ways a little bit softer, but they're just as important. Our observations in 2 years of doing future flight are, one, that there's a really key role for SMEs and newer entrants. And newer entrants might mean newer entrants to the aviation sector rather than newer entrants per se. And I tend to mix up SMEs and newer entrants quite often. They're not necessarily the same thing. But for us, what they bring is often challenging approaches, new thinking, and an appetite for speed. So we're really, really supportive of that. And I would say in the main Future Flight Challenge, it's not exclusive. We're not sending a message that it's all about those types of organizations alone. We have some long-established global players in aviation too, but there's a really key role for SMEs in the reasons I said, bringing innovation and driving speed. Second one for us is we need to be able to drive continual innovation. And the way that our Future Flight Challenge is laid out, it's got some big blocks of phases. And this particular activity with Connected Places Catapult, we like because it kind of dovetails into that. It gives us an ability to do something a little bit quicker with SMEs that just is an alternative mechanism alongside our main challenges, because we need to have lots of mechanisms to keep stimulating the market. We need to keep going back to the market because people's innovation ideas and the technical solutions are developing really fast. And then the last thing, which is kind of a soft power thing, I guess, for me, it's one I've held really close to my heart since I first started this job. I think in this world of advanced aviation, advanced air mobility, and for us, drones and electric aviation too, it's going, as I said before, at a different pace. It's bringing in some different thinking. We will absolutely see some of the ideas and innovations that come out of that move into the main aviation system. And so we've always carried one of our benefits as being accelerating, de-risking, and frankly, trying by doing some pretty innovative things that will find their way into the main aviation system. And that's going to be a challenge to the aviation industry, and that's really important. And again, for us, those three mechanisms, they sit very much at the heart of this forum challenge. So we are very supportive. It makes complete sense to us to be partners in this, and we look forward to working with you. I'll hand back to Ben now, who will introduce the themes themselves, I guess. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Can't agree more. It's a really exciting initiative, which will look at some really interesting areas of aviation. So I'm going to take you through the challenge statements themselves now. The output of the market research and the challenge scoping workshops was these three key areas of innovation that we wanted to focus on. And subsequently, in the following slides, it breaks it down into more detail. But at a high level, as advertised on the website, you may have seen, we're looking at data-driven aviation. So looking at how do we capture and utilize data to increase operational and commercial efficiency within the aviation sector. So looking at how do you capture and utilize data from all aspects of technologies. Onto smart airports, looking at how do we integrate the next generation of autonomous solutions into airport management, security and operations. And also looking at the net zero aspects of technology. How can we integrate those types of technologies to really achieve our net zero targets as an industry. And then onto advanced air mobility, really looking at how do we commercialize and accelerate the development of advanced air mobility solutions, looking at the systems of systems, as Gary mentioned, and the infrastructure technologies that surround that. So looking at what tools or modeling and simulation tools are required to look at commercialization. We're taking a bit more of a detailed look in each section. The data-driven aviation challenge we see is separated into two areas. So looking at the operational efficiency, as I just mentioned, looking at areas of technology such as passenger demand forecasting, through to actually how do you manage passengers more effectively through the airports, onto looking at how do you use technology from a automatic identification perspective, looking at hazards and passengers and threats within the airport environment. Then the other area is looking more on the integrated travel side. So looking at how do you integrate, as Gary said, passengers into a more diverse transport and mobility network. But also looking at how do you understand passengers more from a identification and management perspective on an end-to-end journey, so to speak. And then looking at how do you wrap services around that. So once you understand passengers on a more deeper level, how can you look to offer more bespoke services around that? And then looking at the smart airports challenge, separated into these three key areas. So automated systems, as testing and verification of systems, automated solutions within the airport infrastructure itself. So looking at ground handling through to autonomous vehicles and fleet management on the air side, or even looking at things like baggage systems as well. Looking at the net zero aspect of this challenge is looking at how do we look at demand forecasting of energy management, for example, and what solutions are wrapped around that on the operational and safety side. And again, how do you integrate these into existing infrastructure solutions that are already in place in airports? And then finally, the safety and security aspect of the challenge is looking at new forms of automated passenger identification and management, whether that be on the passenger or the baggage side as well. And how do you look to improve customer experience with these new types of technologies and make it much more of a seamless experience through airports themselves? And great timing, it's an aeroplane taking off right outside. And then the final advanced air mobility challenge is very much looking at the commercialization of a new form of technology. So how can we use simulation and forecasting tools to simulate the future AAM environments, through to looking at what infrastructure energy systems are needed, and how do you look to design and plan around that. On the systems and infrastructure side, again, looking at how do you integrate these forms of technologies into the existing mobility systems, and also again looking at the energy and systems infrastructure that will be needed to be surrounding that. And then finally, on the public acceptance side, is looking at how do you more effectively engage with the public and increase advocacy around UAV and AAM services. Looking at how do we take a human-centered design approach to the future, as well as how do we look to understand, for example, demographics of the population on where we would look to deploy new AAM services, and how do you measure engagement around that. So that's the challenges at a high level. If you have any questions around the challenges, feel free to reach out. As I mentioned, we'll have our details at the end of the presentation. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Sam and Toby to give you more information on the programme structure itself and how we'll be looking to support SMEs. Over to you, Sam.
Great, thank you, Ben. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Sam Birds, I'm the Accelerator Programme Manager here at CPC. And in this section, both from the PlusX team will be taking you through obviously how the structuring of the programme and the breakdowns as such. Before I pass over to Toby, I quickly want to talk about the makeup of the consortium we have for the programme. So as mentioned earlier on, we completely appreciate that if you want to build something of this structure and magnitude, we can't be doing it alone. And with that in mind, we realised we wanted to bring others into the process. So this slide perfectly illustrates the consortium programme we have built up for a sustainable business model with the Accelerator moving forwards. So from the bottom up, you can see that we have ourselves, CPC, who will be supporting on the trials through the technical resources we have, and PlusX, who will be doing the same from the commercial perspectives. Both our organisations will be doing most of the day-to-day activities within this accelerator as well. And then above all of this, you can see the consortium that we have, who will be supporting the SME cohorts moving forward. All of these are aviation industry leaders and a wide and diverse range of different inputs as well. So as you can see, we're joined by Cranfield University, who will also be talking you through their offering on this webinar shortly. We also have industry partners who we are just finalising at the moment, who will be coming into the accelerator and will also be supporting on the trials and the mentorship side of things. We have an industry collaboration with Deloitte, who will be providing the industry access and mentorship as well. Maybe on the longer term as well, we have investors who can provide the financial growth for the startups coming through the accelerator. And then finally as well, we have regulatory partners supporting on the trials with the likes of BSI and CAA. This whole programme will be underpinned through a strategic partnership we have with Future Flight Challenge, and will basically be funding all the trials we have for the SMEs going through the programmes. These challenges, as Ben mentioned, are strategically aligned with the people. We hope that they can demonstrate a clear route of progression for the startups going through the programme. So with all of that said, I shall now pass over to Toby from PlusX.
Great, thank you, Sam. So yeah, Sam mentioned I'm Toby Kress. I'm the Programme Director at PlusX. So a little bit of background about us. PlusX is building a national network of innovation hubs across the UK. So that's our first two spaces are in West London and in Brighton. This is a picture on the right-hand side of our Brighton location. And so our spaces have workspace, prototyping labs, podcasting studios, support programs, accelerators, really the kind of whole ecosystem needed for startups, scale-ups and corporates to innovate and bring new services and solutions to market. And our team over the years have worked with well over 1,000 companies to help them do just that. So if you could go to the next slide, please, Ben. A bit about PlusX's role in this program on support. So as Sam mentioned, we're really involved in the non-technical side of the support for the cohort. So that's everything from mentorship and coaching, kind of tapping into the core team, our network of experts, and of course the experts across the industry partners. It's really thinking about those strategic partnerships. How do you tap into that opportunity for the partners and the network that you'll have access to? So there's everything from understanding the challenges, meeting the right people that can help add insights, but also exploring collaborations and commercial opportunities with those people. Then on the investor side, thinking about your next round of investment and introducing you to commercial corporate funds, VCs, and also advice on the grant funding side. On the technical side, you'll have access to the prototyping workshops at PlusX. So that's everything you would need to develop your prototype, from CNC machines to laser cutters, 3D printers, spray booths. We've got a great group of equipment, and then even coming into user space, so using meeting rooms or coming in to do a hot desking day at one of our locations too. So next slide, Ben. So the structure of our support, in October, when we kick off, we'll do deep dives with all of the cohorts. There is some structured content, but also a lot of it is bespoke to the needs of the startups and scale-ups on the program. November and December, introductions to investment and IP strategy and how we think about that in terms of the connections that are being made across the program. Then looking at sales, marketing, and strategic partnerships. And we have an in-person day where we connect you to industry partners who can help unlock opportunities. In January, it's continuing on the pilot and trial side of things, but also continuing with mentorship and bespoke introductions. Then in February, it's around scaling and growth and investor readiness. And we have an in-person day connecting you to investors that could be right for your business. And then March is all about demo day. So pitch coaching and preparing to really showcase your work at the end of the accelerator and really tell the story of what you've achieved over the last 5 months. So our support will be about 1 to 2 days a week on the PlusX side, through workshops, one-on-one clinics, and bespoke support. And we'll have bi-weekly check-ins with each of the startups too. So next slide. I mentioned the kind of some of this is the bespoke nature of the support that we give, and a lot of that is through access and introductions. And so here are a few of the companies in our network from industry, academia, and investment, which you have the potential to connect with, as well as the key partners on the program, which Sam mentioned a little bit earlier. Back over to you, Sam.
Great, thank you, Toby. So if we take a look at the breakdown of the accelerator from both the commercial and technical aspects, we can see the initial few weeks of the programme will be dedicated towards providing SMEs with the relevant support for submission of a successful trial funding application. We can see that there will be lots of different types of support on offer. So whether this is regulatory, industry, it all depends on the startup. And basically, this is all dedicated towards ensuring that this funding will be successfully provided or unlocked by the startups. Once this is done, work will be beginning on the building out on the subsequent delivery of these projects over the next couple of months. So as mentioned, both the PlusX and the CPC teams will be looking to support the SMEs through the commercial opportunities, such as the investors and the summits. And then once all of this is completed at the end of March, the focus is very much on supporting the SMEs with their longer term impacts. So continuing their growth off the back of the accelerator. Go to the next slide. So from a resource commitment point of view, you can see here we have a bi-monthly breakdown of the core activities of the accelerator. So on constructing this, I'd like to think that the programme will be positioned in a way to SMEs that will allow them to not be too time committed within this accelerator, or overly committed on time, should I say. With that said, there'll be some points within this where our baked-in events and workshops will require teams to invest a little more time, some months than others. So for example, here in a number of virtual workshops will be used to support the cohort with the unlocking of the trial funding, as mentioned before. But once this is done, you can see that a mixture of in-person and virtual events will be taking place over the remaining months. So also want to quickly note here as a caveat that in this visualization, we can only see the core activities and not the bespoke elements of the programme, such as the conversations and the commercial opportunities. These will be worked into the team schedules based off the conversations they've had and the nature of the support that they need. So thank you. And with that, I will pass over to the guys at Cranfield to talk you through their offering.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Good morning or good afternoon, as Ben said, wherever you are. We're delighted to be here today as a supporting partner. My name is Veronica Rigby. I'm a business development manager at Cranfield University with a focus on supporting Aviate Plus. I'm going to tell you a bit more about that in the presentation, and also growing an aerospace and avtech cluster at the university. I'm also joined today by my colleague, Professor Antonios Sordos, who's the Director of Research at our School of Aerospace, Transport and Manufacturing. So I thought it might be just good to give you just a few key facts, a bit of background. Cranfield University is a specialist postgraduate university, and we're located at the heart of the UK's Cambridge, Milton Keynes and Oxford Arc. The university offers world-class programmes, unrivaled facilities and close links with business, industry and governments. With the UK's most business-engaged university, collaborating with nearly 1,500 organisations around the world. Thank you. And here's just a few of the partners that we work with. As I said, we work with over 1,500 organisations in over 40 countries. Some of our partners include Airbus, BAE Systems, Boeing, Heathrow, and Rolls-Royce. Okay, thank you. And just very brief in terms of aerospace capabilities, over half of all aerospace engineering master's students in the UK study at Cranfield. Our distinguished alumni includes Ralph Hooper, OBE, the chief designer of the Harrier jump jet. We've made over £100 million of investment in aerospace facilities in the last 3 years. our global research airport offers a unique environment for transformational research, enabling us to rethink the airports, airlines, airspace management and aircraft of the future in a holistic way. Cranfield is the only university in Europe with its own airport, aircraft, air navigation service provider and maintenance, repair and overhaul facility. Thank you. Okay, for some of you who might not be familiar with Cranfield, this graphic, which will probably be worth a while maybe later after the presentation is to have a look at, but it gives quite a good overview of some of the fantastic facilities and how you can see everything is laid out, accessible, and gives you some sort of context in terms of how the facilities sort of join together. I mentioned I'll be talking about Aviate Plus, which is sort of in the heart of that photo, and my colleague Antonios is going to briefly give you an overview of a couple of those facilities, but we'd be delighted, say, to link in with you and talk through any of those facilities if you're interested in finding out more. So I'll just pass to Antonios.
Hi, Veronica.
Should I pass to the next slide, Antonios, or do you want to?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
The two main facilities we're having, both of them are associated with the access to the airport. The first one, it is the Digital Aviation Research and Technology Center. This is about 65 million investment from Research England and industry. And they're looking at quite a few aspects that they are related with what we discuss in this event. It is describing how to integrate digital technologies, not only the airports, but also in the airspace, and how to enable UAM and drones safely integrated in non-segregated airspace, how they can be connected, and how can we have in distributed airport and airspace management, how new technologies like the digital air traffic control it can be integrated, and here it can be tested in our airport. How can we having airports operating both manned and unmanned systems together, and how we can look in the maintenance and the services of both UAM and drones in both new vertiports and aerodromes. The next one, Veronica. The other facility we have in here related to this one, it is the Aerospace Integration Research Center, which is about 35 million investment, again from Research England and industry. And within this one, it's started looking at new ways to develop novel platforms, including urban air mobility and drones, looking at the structure, the avionics, the ground control stations, the manufacturing of them, the integrations of payloads on the platforms. And so it is taking the whole systems and subsystems integrations and development of the various subsystems within the different labs of the IRC. And I hope that both of them will provide you the opportunity to work with us and explore these facilities. Thank you, Veronica.
Great, thank you, Antonios. Next slide, please. Okay, just a little bit about our enterprise zone. Cranfield University is a designated university enterprise zone, and we were awarded 1.2 million by Research England to support the growth of an aerospace and avtech business cluster. Funding has enabled the development of Aviate Plus, which is a new facility that will operate alongside the Cranfield Eagle Lab. The Cranfield Eagle Lab was developed in partnership with Barclays and is a successful business incubator facility for early stage companies in the aerospace and avtech sector. Aviate Plus will operate alongside the Eagle Lab, but will provide grow on space and tailored business support for high growth companies as they move forward on their growth journey. Next slide, please. The Aviate Plus facility will have co-working desks, private workshops to enable large-scale prototyping, a fully equipped shared makerspace with an on-site engineer, and a tailored programme of support to assist companies to scale and succeed. We are located on the university campus, which gives us easy access to academic expertise, world-class research and facilities, and of course our highly skilled graduates. And we're scheduled to open at the end of October 2021. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. Okay, and I think with technology developing at pace, including drones and electric powered flight, Cranfield is in an ideal place to accelerate innovation in aerospace and aviation. And we are absolutely delighted to be working with the Connected Places Catapult Future of Air Mobility Accelerator as a supporting partner. And we look forward to meeting you, some of you all in the future. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, both of you. Final part of the webinar before we open up to questions, we're going to quickly go through the application process. So next slide, Ben. Amazing. So to apply, teams will need to visit our website and go through the links provided, details for which I'm sure we can put into this chat, or alternatively, please use the QR code provided here. We'll leave this up as I go through the rest of this slide. So within the application, teams will be asked to submit a trial proposal for a value of up to £25,000. Also, just to be stated that this funding is not guaranteed and will be evaluated further into the programme. Also, a slight caveat on this as well is that whilst this is a £25,000 figure that we've put on this, there is some slight flexibility around it, although please take this into consideration when submitting your proposal as well. Any further questions on this, I'm more than happy to ask. Also, to run you through the eligibility criteria for startups. So ideally, we're looking for a readiness level of about 6 to 8 to companies with some kind of revenue, some kind of market traction already. Although, again, like I said, we are kind of flexible within those sides of things as well. Companies must be UK registered or open to opening a UK office. Furthermore, also be open to utilising this trial funding provided within the UK as well. So if we move on to the next slide. Perfect. So quickly to run you through the selection process. So the 26th of September, so the end of this month, is when we will close applications for the accelerator. As soon as we do so, we will begin the shortlisting. If we think SME applications fit with the assessment criteria, we will reach out to the team and request more information. This information will subsequently be used within the due diligence, which will be taking place October the 4th and the 5th. Basically, in this, our commercial and technical teams will sit down with the SMEs to discuss the fit for the programme in more detail. But there'll be more information on how we do this in just a moment. Final interviews with SMEs take place between both ourselves, relevant stakeholders and the startups on the 7th and 8th of October, after which we will select the final cohort of SMEs coming into the lab, which is due to take place on the 25th of October. Slide. So for teams to be successful with their initial application, we'll be reviewing a range of features sort of set within their answers. So alignment. Does this application align with the expectations that we have for the lab? Viability and feasibility sort of align quite nicely as well, in the sense that is the proposed project possible within both the time and resource parameters set upon the lab. And then we're focused more on the impact of the project as well. So as mentioned in the slide previous, any successful companies with their initial applications will be asked to provide more information on the technical diligence, where we're going to be sort of breaking down the product on offer and its capabilities, and then also on the commercial DD side as well, where we're looking at the team's resources, capabilities, and approach to market. So one more final slide from me. So to summarise just the value that we can potentially bring to the startups through our accelerator. So we have access to trial funding and funding mechanisms through the Future Flight Challenge. We have the adjacent opportunities for growth of SMEs, not only within the commercial opportunities presented, but also through the academic and regulatory activities on offer within the accelerator. Startups will also receive technical validation through all parties within the consortium as well, and then also a whole other host of such as investment readiness and growth planning sessions as well. And with that, I believe we will be jumping over into the Q&A session.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Thank you for all the speakers today. I hope you get a clear picture of the vision that we have here, which is really convening the whole industry together through this consortium, really connecting the dots from between academia all the way up to large-scale industry partners and everything in between, bringing it all together so that we can transform the industry together. So we now have time for Q&A from all the attendees. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A box. And I'm going to select questions as they come in and answer them live. So I'm just looking at there's no questions in the chat. So if you can use the Q&A chat, that'd be really handy. So there's a question here around SMEs that are already working in phase 2 projects of future flight or looking to bid against phase 3 competition. So see them as 2 separate projects. They're just very complementary in their nature. So Future Flight Challenge are a sponsor and they will be funding trials in our programme, but it in no way affects any applications going for phase 3 of Future Flight Challenge. In some ways, they're very complementary. So phase 2 companies could, for example, apply for our accelerator programme, where they could get access to more tech support or scaling support. And similar for phase 3 applications, you could use this as a demonstrator, which by the time the applications close, phase 3, you can actually show and demonstrate traction through our programme. So I hope that answers that question. So it's a question here around hardware development. To answer that question, I think that comes down to the question around feasibility. So if you feel that, for example, £25,000 would be enough money to develop that hardware to by the end of the 5 to 6 months, or maybe longer, but at least that a reasonable amount of time to demonstrate that it's a viable product, then yes, it's still an opportunity to look at the hardware aspects of UAM and the AAM industry. Obviously, in some instances, software is easier to test and trial, but we're not ruling out any applications on that basis. There's a question here around cybersecurity not being mentioned in any of the challenges. So I think you can almost look at the challenges from the high level and think of maybe more innovative ways to approach those challenges, some of which we haven't mentioned. So cybersecurity, for example, could still go into the safety and security aspects of the challenge statements. But we are still open to any application that you think is fit. We're almost open to new ideas and new approaches. So even if you don't see it mentioned in the subsectors of the challenge statement, still feel free to apply to that. Can you confirm that you don't have to be an existing participant in the Future Flight Challenge? Yes, in short, yes. As I mentioned, 2 separate initiatives, that's very complementary. There's another question here around hardware for the Data-Driven Aviation Challenge. Are we just looking for the software solutions, or can it include hardware? Again, I think tied into my answer before, if it's feasible within the money available to demonstrate, there's absolutely no issues with applications on the hardware side as well. Just waiting for any more questions to come in.
And maybe just to mention on the hardware side, so it's Toby from PlusX, that there is the facilities to help with the prototyping too. So if you're looking for equipment to build your prototypes and your hardware, there is access to that machinery and kind of workshop assistance.
Yeah, that's nice. Thanks, Toby. Is there any questions for the partners at all from anyone? I see there's been a comment shared in the main chat. If any of you'd like to share business cards, for example, to connect with other attendees, then please feel free to do so. As Sam mentioned earlier as well, we will be announcing more industry partners in the coming weeks, if not days. And they come from a range of OEMs through to airports. So they will be providing further mentorship and opportunities on the trials through the program as well, which present a huge opportunity for the SMEs. Is there any more questions? Either a good sign that we've answered all your questions already. I'd like to think so. So just to reiterate the application process, I take you back. So you apply via our program website, which you can find by typing this in. Sam, do you want to share the URL into the chat for us so that everyone can get access to that? Applications close on Sunday around midnight on the 26th. And then straight away the following week, we'll be evaluating applications between all of the partners. If you are any international SMEs, we mentioned there's a requirement here to be open to opening up an office in the UK, which again we can support on that as well with giving guidance or introduction to the UK trade, for example. There we go. So Sam shared the application link in the chat just there. If we don't have any questions, we won't keep you any longer today. Here's our details on the left here in case you want to reach out to us directly. We're also looking for any more partners that might want to get engaged into the program as well. This is the first of many programs. So we're looking at how do we get organizations involved in the program this year, and also programs 2 and 3, which will subsequently be in the following years. There's a question that's just come in. Do we know when the next cohort will be?